Quick little side note, I noticed my audio quality is a little bit off. Um, that was due to an error in the kind of audio device I was using. So sorry about this video, and the previous video kind of had a little bit lower quality audio, and that should be fixed in the next video. Now, back to the video. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Introduction to Web Development. Now in this video, we are going to be tying together all of the knowledge that we have learned so far and creating a simple kind of form where you type in like your username, your email, and your password, and then it'll like, for our purpose, it'll just display that back to the user, but in a real website, we could use that to then turn around and go try to log in the user, for example. Now, I might end up splitting this video into two, depending on how quickly I get through these topics. So we are actually going to be starting from scratch. So if you remember, we created a new folder, and then we want to hit this new file button and going and creating an index.html. Now, once you're in there, you can go ahead and type an exclamation point and hit enter, or you can manually copy all of this. I'll leave it there if you want to pause and copy. If not, you can be left with this. And depending on how your indentation style, sometimes you'll indent this, sometimes you won't. It doesn't really matter. We're going to go ahead and just change this to form or simple form here in the title. I didn't talk too much about the head tag, but right here, this title simple form, if we come down here and hit the go live button, it should show right here. So as you can see in this title up here in the top says simple form now, and that's what this title means. And then if you remember from the responsive styling video, this one is for responsive styling, this meta tag here. And then this meta tag is just, it's for talking about what character set this website is using. So once we have this simple website, we're going to go straight into our body. And if you remember from the video on semantic tags, we are going to create two semantic tags for this one. We're going to create a header, which will be used for like displaying our big title. And then we're going to use a main, which is going to be for our kind of our inputs and our result displaying. So yeah, that's just kind of to separate our website into two different parts. So yep, header and our main, boom. And then we want to create a title, which is going to be an H1, and then we're going to want to give it an ID. So we're going to create an H1 here, which remember, I keep using the VS Code shortcuts, like I type H1, hit enter. But if you aren't using VS Code, you will use angle bracket H1, and then for me, it automatically closes it. But you'll have to write this closing one out if it doesn't for you. And fun fact, if you do want it to do that for you, you can come in here to the extension store and type in auto rename tag. Now, I didn't want to show you this right away because it is good to always kind of like write it out at first so that you get like a kind of used to it. But once you have like the basics down, then go ahead and get that extension, and it'll automatically, or not auto rename tag. This auto rename tag, I'm sorry, my bad, is for if you change one, notice it changes the other one. But if I'm not mistaken, the closing of HTML might be automatic in JavaScript or in VS Code. I'm not sure about this auto close tag, but I don't have this extension, and it still automatically closes the tag for me, which this is the closing tag right here, this little section. Anyways, let's create that H1, and then let's give it an ID attribute of title. And then we're going to say this is our placeholder title, or actually we can give it a real title. So we can say simple form. Simple form. Oops. Right. And then we want to basically add some styles to it. So that's where we're going to be adding our style sheet. So if you remember here in the head, go after the title tag and then type in link :CSS, and or you can just copy out this this whole deal right here. I'll give you a moment to pause and do that. And once you have that finished, go ahead and create the style.css file in here. Now, once we have that, we've linked the CSS with the HTML, we want to give our title some styles. So if you remember in CSS, the way to access an ID is you do a hash and then title. And then let's see what I wanted to give it here. We want to give it a color, center, and underline. So let's make this green. So we're going to give it a color : and then we can, actually we'll say blue RGB. So here I'm looking up some colors. And this is what's called hex code or hexadecimal code for colors. And this is like a way to kind of like, if I put this in, for example, this is navy right here. If I put this in for color and I save, notice that's the color it gets. So that's just one way to enter in colors in CSS. So I just want to give it, let's look for some sort of blue. And this is what I normally would do if I'm creating a website. I'll look for a good color that I want to create. So let's go with this like powder blue, or let's go with this like steel blue, blue-gray kind of. And then let's put this in here, and then boom. So we get this color for our title. So that's nice. And then we want to center and underline. Now, one way to center stuff in our code is we can actually add it to our header and add a style. So we can put an ID equals, or even we can create a class for this. So we can create a class. So give our header a class attribute and then say center dash text. And here in our style.css, remember to select a class, we use a period center dash text, and then we can go text align, text dash align, and then we can put center. And notice now our simple form text is centered no matter how we resize our website. So that's all fun. And then we can give it an underline. So of course, in order to actually give our thing an underline, it's called a text decoration, text dash decoration. And all of these like memorizations just come with time. And I would highly recommend checking out W3 Schools, which I link to in pretty much every video. This is an amazing repository of HTML and CSS stuff. So you just come here, and I'm going to make it like a desktop size, and you can learn HTML, learn CSS, or even if I come back to their homepage, you can see there's an HTML reference. And what this means is this is kind of everything to do with HTML. For example, I just looked up text decoration. Well, I'll come here to CSS, and then I'm looking, text, CSS outline, text. Okay, we want to underline text, so that might be a good way to start. We come here, text color, background, nope, it's not here. So we can keep looking around, or I think there is a search here. Yeah, CSS underline. So we search that, and then boom, the first result is CSS text decoration property. We can click on that, and then we can see text decoration overline, line through. Okay, so this is how you underline something. And that's kind of like the process of being a software engineer in general, is when you don't know something, just look it up. It's, I do it on the job. I don't know a single software engineer that memorizes everything. Even when I went through my coding interviews, during the interview itself, the interviewer is like tells you and encourages you to look stuff up, because they're assessing your ability to actually perform on the job, and on the job you're looking stuff up. You don't memorize the hundreds and hundreds of concepts. Of course, you memorize the more common ones, and that comes with time. So I already knew text decoration, but if you didn't, go ahead and look that up. And then text decoration underline, to go ahead and underline. So if we come back to our website, notice we now have an underline under our text. So that is our title. Boom. And that is this whole section right here. Done. Now we want to create our subheaders. And I'm actually going to add a horizontal rule, or HR, which is a thing. And we are going to create our subheaders. So we'll actually put our subheaders in the main tag. So our subheaders are going to be H3s, and then we're going to put a class equal to subheader. And the reason why we're creating a class is because we actually want several of them. Remember, if we use an ID, there's only going to be one of them basically. But if we use a class, there can be many. So we're going to create 3 subheaders, and we are going to actually put our main, we're going to give it a class of center-text, because remember, we want to, whoops, NTER, we want to center everything in our website for this one. So we're going to create 3 subheaders, and we're going to say username, we're going to say password, or we're going to do email, username, and password. And I'm going to add colons after all of them. And if we save this, boom, we get all of this right here. Now notice these are all centered aligned, and I'm not actually sure. You know what? We're going to go with non-center aligned because that might look a little bit better. There we go. So if email, username, and password. So we want to give our subheader some styling. So I think I wanted to color it and give it some italics. And actually, I'm going to change our subheaders to H4s. So go ahead and change all those to H4s so they're a little bit smaller. Now, in here to select our subheader, if you look back, we gave it a class of subheader. So to select a class, we use a dot subheader. and then like that. And then I think I wanted to give it a color, and let's go ahead and search again for a color. Let's just give it a light sky blue, for example. And then boom, we just copy this hash and then these 6 characters slash numbers. And this is an RGB code. We can also use this if we copy. We can do RGB and then paste this whole thing right here. And that's the same thing. So notice I'm going to save this, and you can see they're all this light sky blue now. But if I also copy this and just replace the RGB with that, it is the same color. And it honestly is easier just to use these because these are more widely used like across different programming. But this is also used all the time. So, RGB, hex, just know both of them, and you can use either of them. So yeah, we have our light sky blue here, and then we want to italicize. So I think an italicize might also be a text decoration. I'm not even sure. Nope, it's not. So look, I do not know how to italicize text. Besides, there is one way. You can put an EM, which means emphasize and you can wrap the emphasize around, and that will italicize it. But for example, if we wanted to programmatically or italicize it in our CSS, I'm going to have to look that up. So we come here to w3schools.com. It's used all the time, and I'll go CSS italic. Font style property right there. See? So I already know this now because I was just looking for that. Font style italic. Boom. So we save that, and now all of our subheaders are italicized. And notice I just add this one line font style italic as opposed to, remember, we can wrap our code in an EM, whoops, like an EM tag, which stands for italicize or emphasize, but I would have to wrap all of these. But now I can literally give this thing a class, like this simple form, class equals subheader if I wanted to, header, and boom, it is now italicized as well. So that's just a little fun thing, but I'm going to remove that because this is our main header. So now we have these 3 subheaders, and we want to now add a horizontal rule. So there is another tag, which I'm going to quickly go over, and it's called an HR tag. It's as simple as creating a line, basically. A horizontal rule is what it stands for, and all it means is just a vertical or a horizontal line. So as you can see, it's just a horizontal line right there. And then it's another self-closing tag like BR for breaking, or AKA skipping a line, or a meta is also one single tag. A link is also a single tag. There's quite a few. So we have that to kind of separate the result and the subheaders. I'm actually going to add some inputs. I forgot that. Sorry. We're going to add an input after each subheader. And let's just create input type text for all 3 for now. Boom. So now we have boxes under each. These are actually pretty big boxes, but that's good. And then I guess our email is going to be a type text, although we can also make it a type email like that. And then we want a subheader, which is a username, which is also type text, and then a password type equals password. Now, if you notice, it has the black dots to hide the password when we change the type. And then we're going to add a final input type equals button. And then we're going to say value equals submit. And notice that this button is not having a new line. And if you remember from the previous video, we can use a BR tag to kind of create a new line. And we can create 2 of them to give it some space. And boom. Now our submit button is a little bit spaced out. So we have this simple form right here. And then we want to give each of our inputs an ID. So we want to give this one an ID of email-input. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy this whole little text here and paste that. Whoops, paste. And then we can say this is username input. And then I'm going to copy it right here, and we can say this is our password dash input. And yeah. And then, so yeah, that is giving all of our inputs an ID. And then we can give our submit button also a submit dash input. And we want to add some styling to these. Now, actually, I've noticed the video is getting a tiny bit long, so I am going to end up splitting this whole section into 2 videos. So I'm going to go ahead and just say deferred until next video. Okay. So yeah, this has been the first part of creating our simple form. in the next video, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going through and adding styles to these inputs. So instead of a little black border, it's going to maybe be curved instead of square. And then I'm going to change the color, maybe change the border thickness, all that little stuff to make this input look a little bit better. And then we're going to create an output section down here where once we hit this submit button, it'll say you typed in, and then like email is this, username is this, and password is this, just so we can kind of show like instead of doing that, normally a website would contact the server and say, hey, is this a real user? They want to log in. And the server will say, hey, this is correct, or no, it's not correct, or something like that. So yeah, this is kind of like something that's really used when you do web development. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like and thumbs up. Or if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving a like and subscribe and hit the bell icon for notifications whenever I post new videos. If you did miss any of the previous concepts that I talked about in this video, go ahead and check out the playlists, which I've linked in the description, and I've been uploading every day. And in a few days, I'm going to be coming out with another video kind of going over what I will be posting about in the future, because I have a lot of plans for this channel. Yep, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.